What's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 3 of the Casual Millennials podcast. It's your host, Andrew Shkubitz. I'm joined always by my co-host, Eric. Eric, how are you?
Just living it up, having a great day, trying to stay out of the hot weather.
Summer is here in Milwaukee, that is for sure. So, I'm going to have you introduce our guest today.
So we have with us Meghan Stark, who wears many hats, but she is a founder of a company, local Milwaukee company, Great Lake Supply Co. And you can kind of explain more about your million other hats you wear.
Yeah, some hats are helmets too. You guys have great radio voices or podcast voices, and I'll work on mine. So we're kind of in the pretty much 1 year anniversary zone of Great Lake Supply Co., which is pretty exciting. It's been a pretty powerful side hustle for the past, I'd say, it's about 13 months or so, but it's a primarily e-commerce based company that I create original designs for, and I print them on different apparel and accessory items. But the long-term strategy is to have original products that are like survival gear, offer different retailers that are made in the USA and made in Europe of motorcycle apparel and safety gear and stuff like that. So the gears are already in motion with a couple of fun things. I don't think I can say officially about some of them, but exciting partnerships with dealerships in town. So people can stay tuned for some physical inventory being outside of me just vending. I would often vend like motorcycle events, like Montreal Motorcycle Show. I didn't do that one, but I did Bruton Rumble, and I'm looking at High Voltage Show. So we're kind of bridging that gap between the online and bringing it physically into Wisconsin, because a lot of my sales have been international. So it's kind of a funny thing to be Great Lake Supply Co. and sending things to India and UK and Australia.
That is really sweet. So, I mean, right off the bat, so you have to be in the motorcycle riding, right? That's the long-term goal. And then how did you kind of develop this strategy? You're saying, I'm going to start a brand and then have that be my long-term goal, not necessarily the impetus behind it.
Yeah, a lot of people, I started creating content online. I was drumming up a little bit interest on Instagram because I do these motorcycle self-portraits. I knew I wanted to, like, my Instagram account was just like a personal account for a long time. And then I got this new bike. I didn't post about riding at all when I had my first bike. It was just a personal thing. It was a fun hobby, and I loved to do it, but I didn't have this marketing approach to it. Then I got kind of a fancy bike, and I was really into certain kind of like entrepreneurs at the time, and Dan Locke is one of them, and he wrote a book like called F You Money and all this stuff, and he said like the wealth mindset is to not just think like, how can this be fun or how can I make money, but how can I make this make me money? Or no, not what's this going to cost me, but how is this going to make me money? And so I thought I bought a Ducati, which is a pretty premium Italian brand motorcycle, and it's a little bit uncommon, especially in Milwaukee, and it's an investment. It's the most expensive thing that I've ever bought, and I think it's definitely my largest asset at this juncture, especially since I'm only recently with a positive net worth. I'm sure everyone with student loans can understand that, negative net worth for a long time. I still have loans. But yeah, so I was thinking I have this beautiful bike, and obviously I want to enjoy it just for myself, but I'm kind of addicted to turning fun things into work. And it's still fun, but it's work to other people. And that's how the brand came about. I was drumming up all this interest, and I knew I wanted to have passive income streams, and I wanted to leverage, because one of the biggest things about building a business is being either like very differentiated in the marketplace, and like female motorcycle rider, and especially female Italian motorcycle rider, is pretty niche. I'm like, well, it'd be silly for me not to leverage this, because now I'm dialed into it, so I see all the women who ride, and so I notice them all, but I forget that it is uncommon, and especially with the bike that I have. There's far more women on Harley Davidsons, of course, and a lot of them don't get into it until their 40s and 50s, so being young female motorcyclists, like all these different little Venn diagrams coming together. People also just DM me all the time on Instagram asking questions, and so I'm like, if I just make content around this, I don't have to answer so many questions. So it's practical, it's long-term business, which is like, and it's a passion project. So it's hard to kind of interweave those, and I have different conversations with different people about it. I'm really on a monologue right now.
You're good to go.
But it's my background in graphic design informed me having fun with it. So this Go Naked design is one of my designs. My bike is a naked bike, which is a bike without bearings on it, and it's got a more retro. Yeah. Everybody's can't assume. And even people who do ride sometimes ask me like, what does that mean? Because it's kind of it's not a term that's widely used, and dealerships don't brand bikes necessarily as naked bikes, but it's a styling choice, and oftentimes they're retro inspired, but not always. But so my bike is both a naked bike and kind of a modern classic or retro inspired bike. So, and it's got perfect, and it's got cafe racer styling. So I've made little graphics based off of all that, and I want to create more designs. And so it's been fun to kind of tap into my background in graphic design and bring it into what I'm doing now, which is primarily e-commerce. I do that for my clients. So that kind of ties into where I went to school and what I did.
Right, so I was just going to say.
I just interviewed myself.
Yeah, that's perfect. We'll just sit and listen.
This is why I make YouTube videos, because I can just talk to myself for 30 minutes.
You were going right where I wanted to head. So let's bring it back farther. Where'd you go to school? Graphic design sounds like was a big part of that. And where'd you go from there?
Yeah, so I went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I graduated from there in 2015, and I was first there for software engineering, because I have a background in coding. I taught myself HTML when I was 9, and that sounds impressive, but HTML is really easy. But for 9, that's pretty impressive. But I had this background in web design, and I knew I wanted to keep doing that. And I figured that software engineering was the logical next step, but it didn't really strike a chord with me. It was a lot more back-end development, really technical, and I do like to code and I like technical skills, but the mathematical logic is not my strong suit. So it really stressed me out having that focus in software engineering. So I pivoted into something that was actually in the art department at UW-Madison. They could go for some restructuring and having an official design school, but at this point they don't. They kind of have some design people in one department and others in the art department. But that had its own benefits. So I studied graphic design and digital studies, which is kind of like internet history. It was in the communications department, and it tied in all the kind of new media stuff and multimedia production. So it was like a match made in heaven. I loved doing that. It was just fun. But UW-Madison was a good place to do all that. And with graphic design, one of the biggest benefits of doing that in a school environment is the fact that you have these critiques, and it's not just your own intuition and random people saying like, that looks great. There is a very precise craft of graphic design, and there's certain ratios that just make more logical sense, and there's a lot of things to notice about proximity and about kerning and letting and all these things that you might not be able to teach yourself. You can teach yourself a lot of things. HTML is one of them, but a lot of design stuff has to be critiqued and thought about from both a communication perspective as well as a visual element of it. So, yeah.
So let's just breeze over the fact that you learned coding at 9. Let's just breeze past that part. So one thing, I just have a quick question on while we're in college, right, and your storyline here. Did you get any blowback when you decided to switch majors from software engineering to that sort of graphic design area from your family, friends, or anybody else, or was everybody kind of like, yeah, do what you want?
Gosh, it feels like a million years ago. I don't remember yesterday. I don't think. No. So I didn't get particular blowback, but I got the kind of passive. I don't mean to put my mom on blast, but I got some passive aggressive articles sent to me about the worst majors to choose in college, and graphic design was always one of them on a top 10 list of worst majors. It was philosophy, drumming, and all the
liberal arts colleges.
And the funny thing is I never really took too much heed of those warnings, because to me it's not the particular major, it's the skills you got from it and your own marketability and your willingness to learn more. So just having this piece of paper saying like, I did this, it's one step at it. It gets you in a lot of doors, but I was just always so confident in my own ability to find work for myself, to adapt, that I was just like, okay, yeah, whatever, maybe it's the worst major to choose for those other guys, but I knew I'd be fine. And with the web background, it was just like, that's totally fine. I think, I don't remember any blowback. Obviously, there is like slightly less prestige in graphic design and even in different kinds of development. Like what I mostly do now is mostly front-end development, and then
Is that a lot of UI or what?
it's user interface design. It's just like coding the visual elements of it, and maybe interacting with databases. I do stuff a lot with databases and with e-commerce, but I'm not like hand coding that. There's a lot of visual interfaces for stitching that together, but that's kind of just the change of landscape as well. So there's even like kind of if you're a full stack developer, that's more impressive than being a front end developer, but it doesn't really matter because who are we trying to impress here?
Right.
Just trying to get out of debt.
That is the end goal, right? All right, so that's pretty good though. I mean, I think this is kind of one of the things we talked about when we started this podcast, of like switching majors, switching careers even once you get out of college, and like what that looks like. Like, were you nervous at all, or were you like, this is what I should be doing?
Oh man, I've that's one thing I'm blessed to have is always having direction and always being very decisive. And sometimes it freaks people out, not freaks people out per se, but a lot of people it's in flux a lot, like what they want to do. And learning to code from age 9 and still coding today, it's evolved, but it's always been kind of the main line of what I've done. And I've always incorporated writing into what I do. I have a background in creative writing and journalistic writing and stuff, and I have this design background, and I just always end up weaving in all my skills into what I do. So I wasn't too worried about postgrad because I was already working freelance while I was in school, and I was even doing freelance in high school while I was like doing the school stuff. And
What the hell are we doing right
and I was on our like online magazine, and they used to do this hideous blog, and I taught them how to set up things in Microsoft Publisher, and taught them how to create like flippable ebooks. And I think to this day they still do that. I haven't circled back, but you know what? They got rid of the journalism program. I didn't know you were allowed to do that. I thought high school had to have journalism, but not
I
anymore.
didn't mind journalism when I went there.
I don't remember either.
It's
Yeah.
a changing landscape. But yeah, I think there was something I wanted to mention about college and about, on the note of like all these different interests kind of coming together. Not everything should be the thing that I do full time or the thing that I like try to make money at. But while I was in school for graphic design, it pushed me into all these different, everyone complains about prerequisites, but sometimes they're so valuable because it's something that you wouldn't have made a priority of doing otherwise. And because graphic design was in the art school, we had to do 3D art design, which included just like ceramics and building things and woodworking and stuff. So I had to take, the introductory level 3D course and then a higher level one. And I chose woodworking, and I had some of the like most profound experience of my life through that department and from the people that I met from it.
Profound experiences. What are the profound experiences that you get from solid wood?
Well, there's something very meditative about it, immersive about it.
Sure.
So much of my work is at the computer, and when you're at that table saw, you're only looking at the table saw. And I really appreciate that kind of work, and I want to incorporate more of that in my life. And honestly, that happens on the bike as well. This kind of ultimate presence. It's a state of calm. It's a state of flow. And sometimes doing internet work all the time, you're at a constant battle to keep your attention. So woodworking did that for me, but then even just like the people I met through it, that's enabled someone to travel for me and just cool experiences. So
I'm so bad at that stuff. That's
heck yeah, go take a woodworking class. There's like,
I mean, yeah, I've done it before. That's why I asked. But, like, I feel like the commonality between biking and then woodworking was like you're gonna cut something off or you're gonna die. So it's like I'm really focused on that table.
just after the cheap thrills.
Yeah.
People have asked me if I'm an adrenaline junkie. I'm like, not really. I don't think I am, but I don't. Well, no, I don't think I am.
It probably helps you focus more because you like really have to focus, especially on a
Yeah.
bike. Because
Yeah.
everybody's trying to kill you in the car.
They seriously are, especially now that it's summertime, because it's all fun and games riding in the springtime, but in the summer, all these randos come to the east side and they don't know where they're going,
Yeah.
and they think I'm invisible.
Only go down the wrong way.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
all
There's
the
just
time.
huge over on this side.
It's almost like worse too because it's like, especially I'm a huge culprit of this, like everybody who doesn't know where they're going downtown comes downtown. And everybody who does know where they're going drives crazy because they're like, fuck these people, get out of my way.
That's the thing, yeah. You get kind of aggressive, and then
Yeah.
you're like, no, I still gotta be cool because just because they have their turn signal on for 4 blocks, it doesn't like the one moment that they decide to go, they're gonna go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but different tangent, but
Okay.
they're all interrelated.
Yes. Well, something you brought up before that I'd be curious to like look back into. Like, so you said that graphic design was one of the worst majors. So that was,
Yeah.
what was that, 6 years ago? That was a lot. No, but I'd be curious to see if it was still that way. You know, like nowadays, it's such a valuable, it's so valuable to be able to graphic design, to be able to code a website. Like, so many people don't know how to do that. And you can get away with it somewhat, but like, that's a really big asset to have nowadays.
And if anything, now it's more important to have the graphic design end of things for a lot of web development because there's less hard coding of sites and less hands-on. Because most of the sites you build, you want to be able to pass on to the client, and they don't know how to code. So I've been repelled by things like WordPress or very development-intensive things, or my old sites that did require a lot of development. The client's like, oh, I want to be able to do this, this, and this. I'm like, well, I've got to do that, and then I can give you access to this portion of it, but don't go crazy, or she'll break it. It's the new wave of content management systems, and just learning a content management system ends up being more lucrative than learning a lot of different languages. So I think graphic design is more important than ever, and especially it's just like another form of communication. And I was thinking, I mean, when I was in school, Snapchat was starting to get popular, and it was so cool to see how news, I don't use Snapchat anymore because now Instagram does it, and I'm like, I can't, multiple platforms, get out of here. But because I'm like, I don't want to do social media for fun, it's already for work. But it was very cool to see how like Vice or the Huffington Post or different news sources were using Snapchat, and they had to make these very compelling 9x11 designs of their articles that were, you know, swipe up, and they had to transpose them for all these different platforms. So it's a very valuable skill, and all this multimedia production, now everyone needs it, and a lot of people are doing it kind of amateur. So if you can just do it a little, like a cut above the rest, you can just snap up so many clients.
Definitely. Actually, it's funny you bring that up. I was just listening to a podcast before this about TikTok. You know what that is?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the new vibe.
It is
That's
the
what
new
it
vibe,
is.
yeah.
And
They need age restrictions on that platform.
seriously. Well, yeah, it's mostly younger people, but they were saying that it's like 30% of the population is over the age of 35, which I found very interesting.
Oh.
And I also found it very interesting that they are starting their own ads platform and like are being able to track data for really advertising on there.
Yeah.
But the reason I bring this up is because they were talking about how much, I think it was don't quote me on this, but I think it was the Washington Post was just like absolutely killing it on TikTok.
That's really funny.
Like,
Wait, what
just,
do
like,
they do on it?
Yeah.
just like however long, 10 or 15, I think it's 15 second max, like 15-second like short articles into it.
That's
And
awesome.
they're just like absolutely killing it on it, like one of the most viewed people on there.
Wow.
But there's apparently a few months ago they hit over 1 billion downloads of that app too,
Wow.
which is a huge milestone.
Yeah, because
And
they acquired Musical.ly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what it converted into, but it's just pretty much the new Vine.
Okay, yeah, because Vine was so valuable, and the looping and all that, and TikTok is like the remixed Vine because it enables people to do all these voiceovers and stuff.
Right.
It kind of calls into question a lot of copyright, but it's kind of just, that's the
It's
internet.
different enough.
Yeah,
It's kind of the rule, right? Like,
Yeah, it's just differentiated enough, and then I think if you were to recreate that Vine, I think there's some sort of, or not Vine, well, a lot of them are ripped from Vine, but if you were
Yeah,
to recreate that, I think there's some kind of attribution contribution. I know it's like instrumental and viral music now. I mean, that's how Old Town Road really popped off.
It's exactly how he did it. I mean,
Yeah.
he literally made
With
viral
the
videos
people,
with his
and
song in
he's-
the background and then put them out there. So that's how the song became
Oh,
popular.
really?
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that.
He didn't make it and just put it out there and it blew up. He like made it blow up.
Huh.
And I heard, because I think there was like story of a song or something like that, and I heard that he planted a post on Reddit where he said, "What's that song that goes like this?" And I think now the post is gone, but he just like was hyping himself up. I'm like, you gotta do that sometimes. It's a smart. It's like kind of guerrilla marketing now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting extra thought. Like on the topic of TikTok being almost like exactly like Vine.
Mhm.
Every social media is almost exactly like every single one. You post something, right? And
Yeah.
but it's interesting how every single one has its own like. You go on Twitter to like talk a lot of shit or like find news or sports news, like that's what I use for it. Facebook is like family, like kind of more wholesome, more politics if you want to get into it. And then Instagram is like pictures, right?
Yeah.
Basic, and then LinkedIn is like more professional. It's very interesting how like it's literally the same medium,
Yeah.
but just used different ways.
And how unsettling it is sometimes to encounter something that should definitely be on Twitter, on Facebook.
Yeah.
That's and you're like, this should, or something, yeah, like when there's something too personal on LinkedIn, or I don't use LinkedIn a whole lot, or ever. But I haven't used Twitter in a long time, probably because like I should not be stream consciously saying my thoughts. But I always thought, yeah, I see people use Facebook like they would use Twitter, and like you should put this somewhere else.
See, people get shamed for that. You know, wrong platform. Like
Yeah, right? Or like
Definitely.
Facebook is for albums, and then when someone posts too much on their feed on Instagram, you're like, whoa, quit bombing my feed. Get out of here.
Yeah, it is crazy that that's how we think.
yeah, it is
We're
what we do.
compartmentalized.
Yeah.
We literally have all this technology at our disposal. They can all do so many things, and we're like, don't do that thing. That's for this one.
That's for that.
It's funny you bring that up too, because in that same podcast, they were talking about how TikTok is so much. It's like the very less professional Instagram. Like you have all these Instagram models who need to be perfect when they're posting on it.
Mhm.
And then like when you're with TikTok, it's people that are, you know, fucking around, just like have like honestly like raw footage of what they're doing and don't really edit it.
Platforms get too polished. It is really interesting, and then there's this psychological element, and there's a lot of expectation that comes with it. And I don't know if it probably has to do with the life cycle of the platform as well. Like YouTube used to be very DIY, casual, people on their webcams, and then some Casey Neistat will come along and blow the production value out of the water, and then a lot of people feel obligated to do that, and then people get nostalgic for the crappy quality. That I think that's kind of happening with, is it Gen Z? The people.
Yes, that's the one.
The way they're using social media is a lot more like they make it look less perfect, and they like the kind of crappier look. They tend to edit photos with like extra film grain that wasn't there, and even if it is posed to make it seem more candid, and it's interesting to see that flip of, some people kind of did it try hard, and now there's an overcorrection of extra memey content.
But to that point, I think a lot of it's like what old VCR footage, I feel like a lot of it looks like, right? And
Yeah.
It's because they never experienced what that actually was like.
That's so real.
Yeah, it's so real, because like we are a generation that got exposed to both. Kind of like Gen X did too, where they were kind of just old enough to get into computers, and we had a little bit of both. And
We had dial-up, and we still remember what that like AIM looked like.
AOL,
and so
yeah.
we're like, oh, design is so cool now. Why would I want it to look like Windows 98? And then the young people are like, ooh, aesthetic. Like,
people are like making floppy disks in the coasters. And, yeah.
like that couldn't even hold like 2 songs on it now.
Right.
Seriously.
Okay, so let's bring this back to you, though. So
You
you
don't have to.
let's do it though. Many hats. We only got one of them, I feel like. So what else are you doing when you're not posting pictures or working on your other company?
Oh yeah, most of what I do is not posting pictures, and the good thing about the company is it kind of runs itself, and my order load isn't like unreasonable for me to deal with. But I see the exponential curve happening, and so it's the calm before the storm, and I know that in the next year or so I'll have to think about stopping doing putting down my other hats, hanging them up. So
That's good though, right? That's the goal.
yeah, well, I don't know, because the cool thing is with Great Lakes Supply Co. is I get to do, it's like a microcosm of all my hats in one place. That's the thing is right now I have all these different roles that I serve for different clients. My bread and butter is doing web development. So I do e-commerce stores. I've got a client in Texas that sells propane, gas, grills, and accessories. So I was like, your Hank Hill is your client.
Nice.
But they're fantastic people, and I have anything from like a company that provides Chinese visas, more service-based stuff, and every so often I work with this Christian backpacking camp, so it's really all over the board. So sometimes it seems like they're all in cahoots and they email me at the same time, and then sometimes I can be unbothered for a whole week, and I'm kind of at liberty to pick the projects that are not so pressing, that are kind of, this has to be done by the end of the month or within the next couple months, but not today. So with the kind of support that I do, remote support, so my clients are, and I'm getting more and more in Milwaukee because the flow is better and it's cool to be able to drop by their location and for them to come visit me. And you can just often get a lot done by having in-person conversations instead of email chains. But it is convenient to have out-of-town clients because then I can work from anywhere as well. And even with the ones in town, I set the expectation that I often drop in, especially if they've got a really cool space. Like No Studios is one of my clients, and they're an event space / reading room / kind of membership-based club, and has been amazing to be a part of. So that's been a lot of my first quarter, and it's been weaning off this year because I did my job and
They don't need you anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I get rid of my job as I do it, and they're a startup, so I'm passing more and more onto their hospitality staff because they hire people who can just do it all, which is very cool, and they're artists as well. So I love clients like that where they just do something exciting, and I'm happy to be a part of it. So yeah, web development is most of what I do. I'd say that encompasses the majority of my day, and then I'm my own client as well. So I've been having to do, I recently made like a wholesaler portal for my website so that people who want to stock my things in person can do so. And I'm working to turn my office space into a bit of a showroom. I've got 2 rooms, and there's like the ugly room and then the front room. And so right now I've curated cool furniture items, but it's not quite what it could be. But I would love to have a showroom, and I've been developing relationships with different retailers who make other products. Like I'm an ambassador for a couple brands, and I say like, yeah, what if? What if we move this to a little bit of a wholesaler relationship? So it's cool doing all of that. So all of that ends up being, I do a lot of writing, I do a lot of design work, a lot of development, a lot of social media marketing, photography. That's what I like. I end up liking doing the most I get very immersed editing photos and editing videos. And it's not
a YouTube star. I don't even know that.
Well, not a YouTube star. If someone else could do it and I could just edit the videos, I'd almost prefer that. Because I recorded a video this morning. It took me a while to bounce back. It's like my soul left my body. But I think it was because I was...
Take so much energy out of you, or what?
Well, sometimes I make life hard on myself, and the video I made today was me installing a Bluetooth intercom system on my helmet. So I'm having to be on camera. I'm also figuring something out in real time, and then I hadn't had any coffee and I didn't eat anything, and I was thirsty. So I think I did that one to myself. I have to have like a pre-video strategy, or else I'll tire myself out.
Hour yoga, nice hefty lunch.
Yeah, just like meditate, manifest energy, and then at least a cup of coffee. But I was editing the video and it went well. So sometimes your body just goes into survival mode and you do it. So yeah, the YouTube stuff has been really great, and that's what's grown my audience outside of Wisconsin. A lot of people assume do you get a lot of orders from Milwaukee? And no, people here don't know who I am, which is kind of nice, but it means that I can do a lot of outreach locally. And more people they often know the bike, and then they recognize me eventually, which is cool. And that was a weird thing about doing this bike show earlier this summer, in early June, is, so vending these events and now having this online presence, people come through and they say, I love what you're doing online. And some people are really shy, and I know they know who well, someone did, like, usually they come through, they say, like, I watch your channel, or I follow you on Instagram, keep it up, which is exciting, or they, like, kind of make fun of me for it, they're like, oh, you're so famous, like, truly no. But the really shy people, they, like, come to the booth, they look at the stuff, they don't say much, they're like, how much is this? And I tell them, and they're like, cool, bye, Megan. And I'm like, oh, you know who I am, you can't just do that. Not your name tag. So that's a funny thing, is me now having to, there's a lot of energy coming my way, and then having to siphon that off. But it's mostly good energy. I've met phenomenal people through Instagram of all things, and I never expected that to happen. I thought it'd just be me shouting into the void. I'd get like an email here or there, and hopefully like selling some t-shirts and fan bags. But the emails here and there end up being, I don't know, it's really fantastic when I get a message from someone saying, like, my boyfriend watched your YouTube channel, he referred me to you, and now I've been watching you, and I'm getting my license next week. And that's the really exciting stuff. Or a lot of people, someone just get, I don't know if it's quite fan art. Well, I have had fan art before, which is wild, but someone like recreated their bike as this logo. So they kind of made an inspired version of it, and they sent it to me and they're like, look, I made my bike like you did yours. I'm like, oh, that's so sweet.
Look at you.
Yeah, so that's influence, baby.
That's right. Instagram influencer in the flesh. Never
no.
thought I'd meet one.
Well, and I think I'd say more so than, because it's funny, the branding of influencer seems somewhat misguided to me, because I want to brand as like whatever my primary focus is, and my focus is kind of to be more of an educator or a, like, not a documentarian, but kind of. I do motorcycle
vlogger,
vlogs.
right?
Yeah, do motorcycle vlogs where I'll do stuff that's how-to and informational and like product reviews and stuff. Then I'll also strap an action camera to my helmet and just bop around town. I do kind of like tour guiding stuff. And I always think of influencer, they tend to be a little bit more lifestyle or leveraging the platform primarily to sell. And I think, I mean, if you think about it, there's all these actors and actresses, like everyone has a platform. Celebrities forever have been dressed by brands, or they've been paid to go to places and do all these things, but I want my skill set to be the title and not the fact that like influence is like a byproduct of a lot of that. So yeah.
Well, I think you're doing it the right way. You're providing value to the people to then build a following who will then purchase your clothes, your fan packs, and all things.
Yeah, I got some cute fanny packs. Practical, hands-free, perfect for on the bike.
There you go. That's very true. It is. But I mean, that's kind of what you're supposed to do. That's the correct way to do it, not just show your ass and sell whatever it is.
Yeah, because that would be the easy way to do it. I don't want to say I'm like overly proud of the fact that I'm amassing a following while being like the most clothed possible. But actually, no, it's not just the following that's being built. The fact that people will often tell me, they're like, wow, this is really like a spicy photo. Well, they don't say spicy, I'm trying to downplay it. They say other things that I really don't want to repeat. But I find it so interesting because it is, well, oftentimes I'll have my helmet on, so you never know what's going on under here. And I'm fully geared up 90% of the time when I post online. So it is kind of interesting how people can find sex appeal in the oddest of places, and sometimes the mystery adds the intrigue a little bit, whether you're planning on it or not. But I think it's good to have more fully geared up women because, well, I don't know, on the internet you just see so much half naked stuff, and it's there's certainly nothing wrong with that, but I just see so much of it that I'm like, well, a lot of it is posed. I like things that are posed but make sense. So a lot of because they're self-portraits, they have to be staged. It's not candid for me to like set up a tripod and set an auto timer, but it is kind of a moment. It's creating a story, and a story that makes sense. That's the thing, is like I want to kind of I don't quite, storyteller was like a buzzword for a lot of people in marketing, and I see a lot of people who say they're storytellers, but I'm like, what is this story? I think a lot of people are making more like hype reels than they are stories, which serves a purpose. It's almost like making commercials instead of making short films. So there's often this, I have a difficult time creating like a 3-act structure. Is it 3-act or 4-act? Structures to stories. And I have this background in poetry, and that's kind of, honestly, writing is like my biggest passion, but I keep that safe.
You don't show that to anybody.
Oh, I show it. I'm published 2 places, but it's definitely the long game, and it's not going to manifest the same way as everything else is. But yeah, if you've got a gallery writing craft or something that's like just a little bit more special, a little bit more precious, sometimes it's good to like siphon off certain passions and not try to monetize them. It's like, you can't even pay people to read poetry. But incorporating that kind of telling vignettes instead of telling stories, I think that's my skill set, is to kind of create moods, to be like emotive in these like succinct kind of ways. More essays and more, poetry in moments than they are whole stories. I like to explore the storytelling aspect in video format. Some of my vlogs, I really try to like make you feel something, but it ends up being more kind of indie film style, where there's not like the building of tension and the release of tension and like the moral of the story. It's kind of slice of life, but very compelling, I hope.
Fair enough. I mean, it has to be if you're good at following, right?
Yeah, a lot of people, it's cool to see the reactions, and people don't miss anything. That's the funny thing about making content online, is people start to tell you how you are, which is kind of an interesting thing to grapple with, but that's why I'm glad I'm doing this now versus, because I got into YouTube early. Like, I watched all the original people back in like, before it was monetized in like 2008 and stuff. And I wanted to make YouTube videos then, but I'm so glad that it really didn't pan out, because what a like transformative time of life, pre-teen, teendom. Like, I'm glad that I waited it out until now, when I've got like a really strong sense of self and confidence in my skills and my convictions, and people can say all sorts of stuff, and I'm just like, wow, that's you, man. And it's good to be able to filter in the productive criticism, but it's cool to see the reception where people are like, you're on to something, because I know that it's distinct being a female motorcyclist on the Ducati, blah, 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 but it's also, I hope to bring a distinct perspective that is unrelated to gender and the accessories around it, and I hope that, philosophically, I'm contributing to the motorcycling community in a different way.
Oh, for sure. I can imagine you are. I haven't seen your content because I don't ride, but that's probably why.
Well, some people who don't ride still find it interesting.
I will have to check it out after this. But let's bring this back to your graduating college, graphic design. Did you get a real, like I say a real job, but like a corporate job, or kind of work for a company, or were you always just going to be an entrepreneur?
I've never had a traditional job. Even, I suppose, at best, before graduating, I had internships places, but they still weren't, I never had a full 9 to 5, or who has a 9 to 5? It's like an 8 till 6. Salaried or consistent hours or any of that kind of stuff, or a boss telling me particularly what to do. Obviously there's hierarchies in what I do, and sometimes there's people that I report to, and sometimes my clients are essentially my bosses. But I have never had a traditional job, so when people talk about benefits or like paid time off, is the wildest thing I've ever heard, because I know if I don't work, I don't make money. And not even if I don't work, if I don't work on revenue generating things specifically, then I don't make money. Because I'm coming to terms with the fact that, like, oh yes, that was work. I forgot that was work. Just because it wasn't, just because I didn't bill someone for that doesn't mean it wasn't work. It had to get done. So it was business related, and I wasn't relaxing, so it was work.
You've been at the same company the entire time, right?
Yeah, so they tried to get me before I graduated. That's only about 50%, and now kind of only a quarter of my work is through a consulting firm based in Houston. So that's where like the Houston clients come from, and a lot of those bigger, more like complex needs. The stuff I've been doing locally is more small, medium businesses, and then the other ones are like kind of like medium, large businesses. And that's been awesome because I can kind of, if I'm ever wanting for work, which I haven't needed more work in so long. And now this channel is drumming up people. They're like, oh, like you do web development, I want to do my side. I'm like, no, man, I can't. I'm like, I am, at capacity. But yeah, if it's a slow time or if I need to kind of look for more clients in a simpler way, I can go back to the consulting firm and say like, hey, who needs stuff, or kind of announce something that I can do.
That's a nice little backup plan.
Absolutely.
It is, yeah. It's a good safety net, and
That's a good way to describe it.
and it's cool because I don't really have any particular like minimums or criteria I have to hit. I mean, obviously I've got to do the work in a timely fashion, but if it's a slow time, then I can spend more time on my business. But it is like kind of directly proportional because I'm sure you can imagine that web development money, sweet development money is better money than shooting product photography, and just like, it's a numbers game. That one is not tit for tat. I spend X number of hours, I get this much money. So I've always had this kind of entrepreneurial concept of money making, is how, trading time for dollars is not the way to build wealth. It is a way to, make a consistent income, but sometimes even for me, that's not consistent income because that ends up being contingent on my ability to focus, like my health. I've been getting sick a bunch lately, and I did not make as much money in June, and I kind of went on vacation. I say vacation because I brought my laptop with me, but I was somewhere else, and I did a little bit of writing in Austin, so that was really fun. But the time spent away is the time you don't make money, and that's why having this like healthy balance and great ways to unwind is really important. And I just like, the biggest thing I've had to learn from being freelance is forgiving yourself for a less than productive day, because I think there's that kind of puritanical work ethic, there's this guilt complex, and you're like, well, people dream of being able to have flexibility over time, so when I'm distracted, I should just lean into it and be like, this is what today is, and at least I can channel this energy into restoring myself versus being like half on task, half off task, and then feeling bad because you didn't do anything well. You're like, well, I didn't relax well and I didn't work well, so what is this?
So the majority of your income, the actual work you are doing is freelance, right?
Yeah, with contract work. So there's oftentimes I'll do like fixed rate bids sometimes. With more flexible projects or ongoing support, it'll be hourly based. And then all the money that comes in through Great Lakes Supply Co., I reinvest. So I pretend like it's not money at all because I just want to build a business.
That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the only way to make it grow. And the YouTube channel, it's so hard because like you can see, like I know what I have to do to get it there, but I also want to foster these other things, and I don't want to exclusively be a content creator. Sometimes like it's so important to have that content to buoy up your business because it's free marketing and you basically get paid to like distribute and market your own stuff. I mean, I don't make my content too marketing-y, but you'll almost never see me in regular clothes online. I'm always wearing my own designs, and it's actually like surprised people when they do see me in like a dress. Really shook people to their core when they saw that recently. I'm like, well, yeah, I go places and I
do things that are normal.
Yeah, normal. But like, why talk about normal life online? I'd rather have private life and then have the kind of online life be not more interesting per se, but because I don't do anything like special just for the internet, but I catalog things for the internet. So it's always an authentic representation, but it's definitely like, I treat at least Instagram a little bit more as an art project. And I think that's what draws people to it. It doesn't feel overly like, oh, she's trying to sell me something.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, she's stylizing things that she made. So,
Definitely. And that's how marketing should feel, if you're doing it right.
yeah.
For the most part.
content marketing is really powerful, and
Tell me, I'm not the marketer.
I mean, this in itself is content marketing. Oh, Don, you know that.
Yes.
But the whole concept of people are invested, they're interested, they're entertained, they're learning something. Like, the stuff you put online should be like, this is how I approach the YouTube channel. I was like, it should at least be funny, informative, or have some sort of entertainment value. Hopefully not like a sad spectacle. But funny or informative is kind of where I want most things to go. And it's beautiful when they can be both. So I think most of the entertainment ends up being like, maybe this pulled at your heartstrings or made you feel something. So that's where I see, that's kind of like my thesis for how I approach content. And it's been working really well for me so far, but it's just hard to scale up while I'm still doing web development. I still like web development. I don't want to quit my job. It would be nice to do my job just for me. But right now it's just like, it's in flux. It would be a big jump, and I'm a pretty calculated risk kind of gal. So, but this year a lot has been changing, so I'm excited to see where that goes.
It's cool. We're only halfway done too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, there's double left.
Well, no, it's cool that you said. Well, cool and interesting. You said you don't want to be a content marketer, because I was just having a conversation with my friend a couple days ago, and we were talking about how pretty much like anyone is kind of like a content creator or content marketer nowadays. Like even if it's just on a personal page, like if you have an Instagram, you create content if you post on it.
It's your personal.
It's turned everybody
Right,
into
exactly.
a photographer.
Yeah, it has, and everyone's so darn good at it now. Whether it's them because of their phones or just because they've gotten professional. Like I see people, like younger kids, probably 18, 17, 16, all the time in the third ward or wherever I'm walking out with like DSLRs, taking pictures, like posing in front of buildings that they think are cool, and it's crazy to see that.
It's more accessible than ever, and it's the norm of how to keep in touch with people. It's interesting the way, and especially people that you maybe don't see as often.
Okay, like checking up on their feed and stuff. Like, what have you been up to?
It's kind of, because it used to be like such a destination. You're like, I gotta go to the computer room, I gotta go on MySpace and see what I was up to. But
so true.
My top eight.
or like you had your little like silver first ever digital camera, and you had to like import.
Yeah.
You had to drag and drop that stuff. You couldn't just upload it right after you took the photo. Or I was talking to my phone about, or talking to my friend about phones when we were in early high school, and she had a BlackBerry, and we were talking about how like, oh yeah, you weren't allowed to open up the internet because you got charged per minute to use it, and also it was so cumbersome to like move the little curl or whatever thing you had to navigate pages.
No one made mobile website or mobile friendly websites back then.
You know what's funny though? I've got an older client, and he said like, can you please let the site be pinch and zoom? He doesn't want a mobile website, so I ended up making, it's a mobile site, but then I also enabled pinch and zoom because he just has big charts and stuff, and he's just an old-fashioned guy.
Honestly, I don't know how to do that.
It's just one line of code. I had to look it up too. I was like, that's most of web development. It's just like, I gotta look that up.
Somebody probably knows how to do that.
Yeah.
Like, everything we do just is mobile optimized now. So
Mobile first for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially since like when we're making websites, we're doing it for the sake of social media, and like 90% of the traffic is coming from like mobile. So
I think
that's what we always do.
I think close to 80% of my traffic or 75% is from mobile. So, and I'm always at a desktop, and I gotta remember to like get on the phone and experience it how everyone else is, and making sure. That's why like stuff loading fast. It's like we have more technology than ever, but the resolutions are off the chain. So it's a skill to know to optimize for web. Because I mean that's something I even have to tell my clients. They'll get photos from a photographer, and then they're trying to put this like 5,000 pixel image on their site, and like, don't do that. It's never gonna load. So they can never completely get rid of us.
There you go.
Go silly a consultant.
So let's make this even higher level. What is your one piece of advice to somebody coming out of college who wants to be an entrepreneur in anything?
Oh man, I'm just going to be reciting my dad because my dad's so wise about this kind of stuff. But it ends up being that you're a lifelong learner. That's not exactly how he says it. I think he says something like, I don't remember exactly what he says, but that's the point of it, is that learning doesn't end at the end of college. And I think a lot of people who grew up in the internet era have been more empowered than ever to teach themselves things. Like the barrier to data and information is so much lower than it used to be. I mean, now there's more distractions than ever, but it's all still out there if you've got the focus. So I'd say maybe like focus is a skill that can be built up and can be honed, and it's important to dial into that. And do things that are immersive, and that's like a really good indicator of what's a great way to spend your time. If hours turn into minutes, like you're kind of onto something. There is always the drudging through the drudgery, but if most of the time you're vibing with what you're doing, that's a good direction to go in. And yeah, always be learning, and without the guidance of others, you got to empower yourself to learn. And to know how to learn. So hopefully most people learn that in college, and if not, like, you gotta get on that. And if you didn't go to college, you know, I think a lot of the people in the trades right now are having a last laugh. Like,
Oh, yeah.
I got friends who are making the same or more money than me without the student loan debt, and they just they're living large and they're setting a good base layer. But for those people, if I'm just doling out advice, I'd say it's important to have an investment mindset with your money now and not burn money at the same rate, because there's this whole like making more money, there's a lifestyle creep. If you've just only gotten out of high school, and a lot of college is like floundering around with, like, at least for me, I was making more money than I've ever made, and some of my base level expenses were covered because I was fortunate enough that my parents helped me with rent. So I was like making my own money for food, and like it's a baby step into having expenses. But some people, you know, the income is like boom out of nowhere, and maybe they're still living at home and transitioning out of that, or they live with a lot of people so the expenses are low. I think just like money management is a skill that is not emphasized enough in the USA. We have a very like anxiety mindset around it and not an abundance mindset, and times are getting harder than ever. So kind of learning about how to invest or alternate ways to invest or ways to invest in yourself, all very valuable.
I love that. And then a question for the both of you. Because you guys both are entrepreneurs, you both own a business, right? Do you think it's become a fad? And do you think too many people are doing it now because it's kind of the cool thing to do? Or do you think that this is kind of the natural progression of things because of the availability through internet, through social media, to kind of slowly create a business like you're working on while also doing your work and getting a steady income to be stable? And do you think that if it is, you believe it's a fad, that it's going to drop off, and when it's going to drop off, is it going to be bad?
Well, I think that like being an entrepreneur I think there's a lot of fake entrepreneurs out there. And I think that it is kind of a fad because those fake entrepreneurs are going to get burnt sooner or later, and a lot of them already have. But I think that the freelance mindset is going to be one that sticks around for a long time. And I think a lot of companies and bigger companies are going to start to utilize that a lot more, like start getting rid of marketing departments and use marketing agencies or marketing freelancers that have a good track record, those types of things. They don't have to pay them salaries. You know, they don't have to pay them, you know, them benefits, match 401ks, you know, any of that kind of stuff. That's kind of that's why we're around. You know, that's our business model.
There you go.
So I'm hoping for that. But yeah, no, I think it's so easy to be a business owner now, whether you're a business owner or a freelancer or just like work for yourself now. It's so much easier because there's so many more opportunities, and the internet's a thing.
Sure.
Yeah, and the internet has enabled a lot of it, and it's also networked people in a way that's never been seen before. So because we're noticing the people, I think people have always been starting businesses, and there's always those stats about, you know, how many businesses fail within a year and all that stuff. And I think it used to be more brick and mortar, obviously, or other kinds of service businesses. And there's just kind of a pivot. I think obviously there's an explosion of e-commerce and people doing I see all the e-commerce too because I'm in that community. So I think you can always see the saturation of that. And marketing, I think because of the internet, people are also constantly marketing their own business. Before, they were maybe taking out ads and you'd only see it in like the newspaper or other spaces, but now where we get our entertainment, we're also seeing small businesses. It used to just be you watch a Coca-Cola commercial during your episode of Seinfeld. And now because
You just went so like late 90s.
yeah, it's like, how I mentioned I'm 40. It's like I don't have a TV. And I don't like watching ads, which is funny because like I'm now relying on them. But I pay for like YouTube Premium so that I don't have to see ads, and that's good for creators too. So consider that if you don't like being advertised to. But yeah, I think now because we've really democratized how information is spread, people, they're marketing themselves, and you don't even really have to have like, because the barrier to entry is lower, the cost of doing so is lower. So it's just like more people doing it, but. It'd be hard to know without some like cold hard facts about it. But some of it could be, confirmation bias. You start looking for it, you start seeing it more, and it's kind of like me. I see so many female motorcyclists, but that's because I'm looking for them. And for a time, I was like dialed into the entrepreneurial kind of community. But it's kind of one of those things where you just need like a dash to get yourself going, or you need that little nugget or the reminder about some sort of business practice or mindset shift or method for marketing, and then you get like right back into the work. And when I'm unwinding, I don't want to watch the marketing people anymore. I do listen to podcasts like most of the time while I'm working, if it's not word working, if that makes sense. If I'm writing emails, or if I'm doing stuff with like a different region of my brain, or during photo editing, I can listen to whatever. But most of the time, I'm like, in order to truly pace myself well for this, I gotta unwind proper and not pay attention to what everybody else is doing.
Favorite podcast right now?
Well, I listen to the Millennials podcast pretty regularly. Sometimes I'll take a long time off and then just like binge them, and they're making them shorter now. I listen to the Ground Up Show, Matt Diavella, another minimalist. And let me think. Oh, No Studios started a podcast actually called, I think they call it Member Voices, or it's hosted by Beth Ridley of Brimful Life. And it's really cool to hear what the creatives who are a part of that community are doing. And they have like really compelling stories. Some of them are so wild, and it's just pretty unexpected. And because it's such a like prestigious space, it brings a diverse amount of people through there. I'm trying to think of what else I listen to.
Soon to be favorite is the Casual Millennial podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, none of those are out yet, are they?
Yes. Well, they're out technically, just not promoted.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I have to dial into that. I feel like there's other podcasts, but I don't quite remember.
Yeah. What do you listen to podcasts for? I mean, both of you. I mean, I am huge. Like, I listen to Heartland Radio 2.0 and like the Pat McAfee Show because they're just hilarious. They kind of just take me out of like the normal world, and it's more like I'm hanging out with friends and kind of laughing at what they're talking about.
Yeah.
What do you guys listen for?
Wait, when you said, now that you say comedy, I forgot that that's like the other facet. So,
Yeah.
I do listen to Joe Rogan podcast, but not super religiously.
Everybody does, yeah.
I just like pick and choose the people I really want to listen to. It's called The High and Mighty Show. So the whole network of podcasts. It was started by Jake and Mayer of College Humor.
Okay.
And so they have this whole podcast network, and most of the podcasts on there are fire. But High and Mighty is this dude, John Gabris, and he just like gets really baked and talks like niche on insane things. But the best ones are the conspiracy theory ones. And he's hilarious because I love listening to comedians on podcasts. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
I tend to do that more when I'm traveling and road tripping and stuff.
Sure.
And then I tend to do the more like mindfulness, minimalist stuff when I'm working.
Fair enough. That makes sense.
Yeah.
What about you?
So I've only pretty much two purposes for them. Like one is education, and like just staying on top of marketing trends.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I use them mostly for. Second is fantasy football.
Wow, big fantasy football guy, huh?
I used to be a lot bigger. Last year I took kind of like a little break, just trying to get this all running and stuff.
I'll have to come to you. I just joined a very intense fantasy football league. Kind of an accident. No, that much.
You said we talk about subcultures. The fact that people play the game with the game.
Right.
in so many interesting ways.
Yeah. But yeah, like so both I guess are educational. I like to think that I should get
Fancy
into.
football is educational.
Yeah.
Well, like I need to listen to certain things.
Study
There is way too much time, especially in college, that I put into fantasy football. But it's fun. Then
Yeah,
that's
it's a good time.
Yeah.
Right. Plus, what the hell else are you doing in college?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I just was in class.
You weren't working like she was.
Right. Learning code at age 9.
Well, I had some fun.
But yeah, it's all mostly educational, and I would like to probably get into a little bit more fun ones. But I usually try and unplug from podcasts outside of like working hours. And that's what I listen to music actually.
Yeah,
So
I'm very into music.
yeah, I'm huge into music. So I need to find time, like personally, to separate podcasts from music because I use Spotify for both. So like it's so easy to just like keep listening to podcasts or listen to music during the day. But like you said, like I can't listen to podcasts while I'm video editing when I'm
Oh yeah, that's
subtitling.
impossible.
Yeah, seriously. Or there's other things too, like if I am writing websites, I don't listen very well to that and do websites. So there are certain things that I like to do that for, but
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, we've been talking for an hour.
I have one last question for you.
Yeah.
Was college worth it?
It was for me. I don't know if it was. I don't know if you could put a price on it, and if that was the price I paid. But the experience was absolutely worth it. I do not feel like I wasted my time. I've certainly spent, like, we're always going to waste a little bit of time. But the things that I was exposed to in a university environment, the kind of time that I got to spend amongst peers and in this very particular environment and having access. The big thing was the access to these professors and these specialists, and they were devoting their time to you, and you could book extra time with them. And my graphic design teacher was a very prestigious designer. I'm pretty sure he did the Up and Up campaign for Target. So all that stuff was his design work, I'm sure, or at least the palette of it and the main design of it. I'm sure other people are doing every little product and stuff. And probably, I'm sure he goes in there and looks at it and is like marking them off. C+. Because he's just a phenomenal attention to detail and really broke me down emotionally. But those are good things that happen in a pretty safe space with people who have your best interests at heart, or at least want to educate you. Because some people, sometimes in professional world, there can be these weird power dynamics and power struggles, and it's cool to have this space that is intended for learning amongst peers and in a very comfortable and accessible area. So, and then just people meeting. So even if somebody, if college isn't in the cards for them, or they're wondering if it's worth it nowadays, because it is so expensive, and the student loan crisis is out of control, just being around higher education places. A lot of people I met went to MATC for 2 years, Milwaukee Area Technical College, or Madison Area Technical College, and then transferred into Madison, or they just lived in the area. Even just being a bartender at a university bar is worth doing. So I'd say putting yourself, at least for me, because I'm naturally an introverted person, and it can be hard to just break the ice with people when it doesn't have to do with collaborating or some very specific overlap. It's just cold walking up to people. It's just so much easier to do that when there's
There's pretense behind it.
Yeah, there's pretense. We're at this event that we're both interested in this thing, or meeting people through these avenues. That's just always keep meeting people, and it's harder and harder after we out of school environments. School environments are so easy to do that. So manufacturing that for yourself if you don't want to pay that high ticket price.
Right.
And I was in state tuition, so.
Yeah. I had no one undergraduate that killed my student loans. Well, we've asked 2 people now, this is the 3rd episode, and they both said college was worth it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm interested to see when we get the first, no, I don't think it is.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah, and I've never had to be in a traditional job setting. I haven't had to formally apply for a job, sit through interview processes. People don't ask me about my degree. They often don't even ask me about my background, but I think it's because, I work online and the portfolio's online.
Yeah.
So I just send them some websites and they're like, that's great. I like how that works.
Do that for me.
But it is interesting. I thought about that a lot because technically I could be doing exactly what I'm doing now without a degree. So something to think about, but not without continuing to learn.
Yeah.
To bring it back. Call it. That's right. All right. Well, do you have anything for us? 'Cause that's what I was going to ask. Do you have anything you wanted to talk
I
about?
was like, physically, I did not bring
No.
it. I thought about it though. I should
No.
bring a present.
No. Do you have any questions or anything else you wanted to talk about on here?
Ooh.
Now that you have the floor is yours.
Yeah, the floor is mine. So what am I gonna plug? Is this like Hot Ones? You're like, look at this camera, this camera,
Yes.
this camera. What do you have to plug? Hot Ones is
How
so
is
good.
Spice Mountain? Let's do it.
Yeah, I don't think I could make it there, so this is my one shot. Like, I finished the water. I do like spicy food, but I have a feeling that that's beyond.
There you go. Let's do it. Let's do it in a month. We'll do all the hot wings and we'll
Oh
record
my
it.
gosh, that'd be so cute. I would love to do a follow-up. I suppose, I gotta do shameless promotion more often because I am
Yes.
a sneaky on the low promoter or not mention the YouTube thing at all. So I have a YouTube channel. It's just Meghan Stark, Meghan, and everyone knows how to spell Stark. And then I have an Instagram account. It's Stark Naked with 2 Ks in naked, where I'm fully clothed. And I do motorcycle content, but it tends to be a little bit more of an artistic bend to it. And I know a lot of people follow because try to write compelling captions, try to make it a little bit slice of life, and I post a lot of typography on my Instagram stories, so that's fun. But I don't want any new clients, so please don't email me about web development. But I do have a background in e-commerce, so when things are dry and people are filtering from this exposure, perhaps you can check in on me. But for the next, I feel like 3 months, don't ask me to make a website for you.
Now go to Eric for that.
Yeah, and GreatLakesSupplyCo.com. That's where I'm selling my stuff, and I'm opening it up to more and more products. It's an exciting undertaking.
That is. I can't even imagine having an 8 to 6 corporate job. Like you two are still like it just amazes me the mindset that you have to have, and honestly, like the faith in yourself to kind of get it done and get out there and do all. That's great.
You turn social life into work. You turn the fun stuff into it. Like this is
Sure,
fun.
you can do that too, though.
What?
You get a lot of the work goes into the social as well, like happy hours afterwards. I mean, that's more fun, but networking's always work.
It's always, yeah.
Yeah.
The nice thing is Milwaukee's so small, you're never like 3 people away from somebody, so
Yeah.
as long as you meet the right people, usually you can get anywhere, at least around here. Yeah, it's hard. I think it's so interesting, and I would never have guessed that you were introverted, by the way, especially because like, you just came on here and we're so...
Yeah, I'm a one-on-one or two-on-one or how many am I?
This is not a big group of people.
Yeah, big groups are difficult, and I'm definitely, my brain is shutting down, and I'm starting to not make sense anymore. So I definitely need like a lot of restorative moments, and I live alone, I work alone, and I put my head in a helmet, and I like commute alone. So I think I set myself up so that I can be energized and tap into it when I need to. So I'm excitable, but I'm introverted.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think it's interesting that I'm fairly extroverted, that I'm in the finance world, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's not normally a typical thing. And I think that's why I do podcasts. It lets me, it's an outlet for me to kind of get that out there instead of not sitting at my desk all day, just staring at a computer screen. So this does help, I think, that.
Yeah.
All selfish reasons I started this. We started this, I guess. Do you have anything else to say, or then we can wrap this up?
No, let's wrap her up.
Episode 3 in the books. Thank you for listening. You heard all of her Twitter handles, her YouTube channel. Check her out. The stuff has got to be great. I can't imagine it isn't. You can follow me on Twitter at Jakubitz, at JAKUBICZ. Andrew Jakubitz everywhere else, LinkedIn, Facebook, Snapchat, anywhere else you want to follow me. Eric, where can they find you and Social Surge?
Oh man, you can find us at The Social Surge. You can find me. I'm actually pulling this up. I should know that. Eric _ has 22. Of course.
Of course. Obviously. What else would it be? Like I said, thank you for listening. Subscribe and like it if you can, and share it with your friends if you enjoyed it. And then if you did, contact us, comment on it, tell us what your favorite part was, and we'll try to get some more. So thanks again. Cheers.